In this video, we're going to be creating the blueprint, the types of players you're going to want in your side each and every week, obviously targeting those teams with the double in each and every round. To kick things off, we're going to show the three teams that you should be looking at to start mainly, and that's going to be the Renegades, it's going to be the Stars, and obviously the Heat with their triple in round one. We've got some pretty interesting news that Michael Neser's pulled out of the Prime Minister's 11 games with some soreness, so we'll have to find out over the next few days if he's going to be playing Big Bash in round one. It's very, very different, obviously bowling a limited amount of overs, 12 in the 3 games, whether it's 8 in 2 games, compared to sort of bowling 30, 40, 50, whatever it could be across that 4-day game against Pakistan. So, you know, there's definitely a chance that he could still play in the Big Bash, but that will change a few things with the Heat. So look at that over the next few days. But let's kick it off with the wicketkeepers here. Quinton de Kock, it looks like their team is going pretty well in the Abu Dhabi T10 comp, so he will be missing that first round, it looks like. He did not get picked in the South African squad for their bunch of series across the first part of, across December. So we don't have to worry about that, but he could be a guy that maybe you target for round 3 rather than looking at him in round 1. And that means Joe Clark becomes a little bit more interesting, given he'll take the gloves in that first round there, but likely to lose them in round 2 and round 3 and beyond. So very interesting one at that. Sam Harper, another one of those guys that could be really, really good for your side, has 3 doubles in the first 5 rounds and has the gloves and will open the batting most likely for the Stars in this one. I can't see anyone else, them opening with anyone else there as well. And you can see Joe Clark up in that position as well. So those two guys really, really cool across that first 3 rounds with Clark, but 5 rounds with Sam Harper, which you can use him as a buy man as well. Sam Billings is the next guy, and the only other keeper I'd be looking at for this first part of the year, especially, and that's Sam Billings with the triple in there as well. So he'll be in my starting team for that one. Across the batters there, so he spoke about de Kock. Neser's the interesting one. Check him out over the next few games there. Webster, we're not sure if he'll actually be named for round 1. Harry Brook's not going to be there for a while. So that's where Will Sutherland comes in, along with Colin Munro, as the next 2 most expensive guys that have a 50-plus average. And that's why the 2 of them will be in my side. You get Munro's triple game. You then get Will Sutherland's double in round 1 and round 3. And he's obviously an all-rounder at that, so he'll be in my side for that reason. It then gets a little bit harder. We spoke about a couple of those keepers, and that's why they'll sort of be next on the list for us. They're 40-plus guys and have 2 ways to score points. One in the field and one when they're batting as well. You look at other guys like Aaron Finch, it gets to a little bit of a interesting price here from now as to if you think that is worth being in your side, potentially with not much of an upside in terms of their Finch's ability to gain cash from here and put on some big scores. We just haven't seen it in multiple years, and it's probably not in the back end of his career time that's going to happen. You have some interesting ones, obviously, with Maxwell as an all-in. Definitely get him in your side. Stoinis a little bit hit and miss. Up to you whether you want to grab him or not. Tom Rogers is likely to open as well. So if you want a cheaper guy in there, likely that Stoinis is the man over Rogers. But if you do want a pod, they averaged the same last year, and Rogers could definitely improve on last year's scores for sure at the top of the innings for the Stars. Paul Waltz is another one of those guys that you're looking at for round 1 potentially as that cheaper guy to slot in. Guys like Josh Brown as well could potentially be there for the majority of those 3 games. If you get 2 out of him at 88k, could definitely do well. He picked up that big 100 the other day. But yeah, that's that. And then you got guys like Fraser McGurk. Joe Burns was featured in the photo for the Big Bash there. So is he going to get more games? We're unsure at this point, but that's probably all you want to be looking at for the batting there. And moving to the bowlers, you can go really, really heavy with guys like Tom Rogers or Nathan Coulter-Nile. Up top there is cool. Kane Richardson didn't play that last game, 2 games for Australia there, so he'll be back ready to go, it looks like, for the Renegades in round 1. Just be aware of that first team list, and if we hear anything on these types of guys, obviously Zampa is important there. If Neser's back playing a couple of those games, I think that makes Xavier Bartlett one of those guys you probably want to push to the side, I would say. Yeah, you're then looking at, obviously, Zamps, Majid, both guys that could have a good crack there. We just got news that Osama Mir and Harris Ralph are likely to be back over the next 2 days. Sorry, I think today and tomorrow, I believe. They should be coming to Australia, Ralph being first, and then Osama coming on Wednesday, I believe, ready for that round 1 clash. So both of those guys, very, very interesting, could definitely score pretty well. It's just if you think they're going to be ready for round 1 or not, and if they're going to get that really big role for the Stars, which you'd imagine they should. So definitely is a little bit of a point of difference, guys, with 1% and 6% respectively there. We spoke about everyone else except for Matt Kuhneman there at 104k. So he's definitely one of those guys that could come in. He should bowl his 4 overs. He bowled the second most overs for the Heat last year, so he could definitely come in and do a job. And I wouldn't be looking at anyone else, I believe, at this point. You got Swepson in there, and Siddle as well. If they get a role, they just haven't scored well. Obviously, lots of games last year and didn't perform very well at all. Can they turn that around? Not too sure. And then you got Fergus O'Neill. He's actually just been put into the game, which is pretty cool at 42k. If he gets an opportunity at some point, he's taking lots of wickets in the Shield. So, but he's probably behind Siddle in that one there. So we then turn to round 2, and the team we want to be looking at there is the Adelaide Strikers. And what you want to be looking at from trading your round 1 guys to the round 2 guys is probably trading out your high value guys that no longer have a double coming up in the next bunch of games. So, it might be 4 or 5 rounds for, I think it's 5 or 6 rounds for guys from the Heat, for example, there. Similar to that for Scorchers. The Sixers don't have any more double games. So these guys here, you're likely to be trading out. And Matt Short is number 1 on the list, obviously, there. Then you've got guys like Baisley, Thornton, Wes Agar. Very, very interesting. And then David Payne. So they're kind of your top guys on the bowling side. And then you have guys like Chris Lynn on the batting side that you'd probably want to be looking at. So that group of 4 or 5, 4 there with then Matt Short up top are the guys you want to be looking at. If you're starting with some of the cheaper guys, obviously a Manenti could be a good one to start with. I think that's the way I'm going to play this one. And then you could go a Darcy Short as well, who's likely to open at the beginning of the innings there, and then potentially bowl 1 over randomly in a game or so. They have guys like Henry Hunt and Adam Jose that could be options as well. Jamie Overton coming in, playing that middle order role, potentially bowling a little bit as well. So they're kind of the guys you want to be looking at. Transferring over the value that you've got from the value guys you've got in round 1, the guys that carry a lot of that salary cap, and trading them for other players that are on a double here and who can score really, really well for you. That's going to be the biggest importance, I would say, heading into that round there. Wicket keepers, you don't really want to be going for a Harry Nielsen, in my opinion there. Obviously, round 3, the big important ones there are the Renegades and the Stars. So we've already gone through those guys there. So then heading to round 4, and that's when Sydney Thunder become an interesting team to grab onto. And Matt Gilkes could be one of those guys that does take that leap this year. Other guys we want to be looking at are Ollie Davies. I would say at 117k, you could definitely improve from that. Should be batting sort of 3 or 4 in this lineup. By this stage, we should have guys like Daniel Sams back. So he's going to be super important at the in this double in round 4. And guys like Tanvir Sangha, some people are starting with him now. Others you could wait a little bit later. And there's obviously guys like Nathan McAndrew who could play a good role in your squads, and Zaman Khan. So I don't think we're going to be too short of potential guys to plug in and play. Some cheaper batters there. You've got your guns in Samsey, Macca, Chris Green, all these guys that could do a really good job. So we're not worried about having a lack of players available in that round 4, which is going to be cool. So easy days there. We go to Melbourne Stars. They're going to be the double in round 5 there as well. No one else from that list, which is cool. Round 6, we head into another couple of doubles there. Round 8 is the only one where we don't have the double in that one. So we get back to Perth Scorchers for round 6 there. And also we have the Hobart Hurricanes, I believe, in round 7. So round 6 is Adelaide again? Not sure exactly. Let me, this is all off the top of my head here. So see how much I've studied on that one. But Scorchers is not going to be a lack thereof of these players here going into this one. Obviously, Jai Richardson, a guy that we're potentially starting with. He's a great guy to slot back in. The guys like Aaron Hardy, there's Jason Perrendorf. There's going to be a lot of these types of players that we're going to be looking to lock into our squad. And when we have a big buy there now for the Stars, it could be time to offload, sort of 3 of those guys. It could be a potential week to you do the double, I think, as well with a couple of these players as well. So looking into that across this next little period, we have doubles for Brisbane Heat. We have the Strikers there. We have the Scorchers over the next 2 weeks, round 6 and 7. And then in round 7, we have Hobart along with the Scorchers having that double. So yeah, this week here is the triple. That's right. for those 3 teams, and then round 7 is just the 2 of those. So again, there's no shortage of top guns, and that's what we want to be doing here, is just offloading some of our high price guys for some of the higher price guys in these teams with doubles. And I think that as long as you're doing that, you're always going to have options. If you're trying to trade out a lot of your cheaper guys, then there may be, one week there may be an option, the next week there might not be. So just be aware of that when you're trying to trade certain players. And hopefully your cheap guys that you've started with, or you've picked up a gun that's got a really good role, it could be a Coop Connolly, it could be any of these guys here that get an opportunity. And they end up going a fair bit higher in price, and then you can use them as one of your trade outs as well, and you're never missing out on potential options to trade in or out of your side. We then move to Hobart in round 7 with the Scorchers. So yeah, some potential options there as well. Obviously, Matty Wade, Sam Hain have done really well. Tim David, Ben McDermott. There's plenty of options there as well on the batting side. And then on the bowlers, there's again, you got Paddy Dooley's, the Ellis's, Riley Meredith. There's plenty of guys that can be a 40+ player for you, which is going to be super helpful for you in that one. As you said, the Sixers don't really have much of importance after round 1, to be honest with you. You obviously could start with the Tom Curran and Abbott, these types of players there. If Jack Edwards gets a role, there's someone like that that you could look into. But other than that, it then becomes into round 9 with the Sydney Thunder, and we go back to that. So they had the double in 4, plenty of options there across all of their positions. So yeah, not too hard, guys. If you are just making sure that you're trading out the top guys and trading them on single games to the other really high level guys that are high priced on doubles, I think you can continue to rotate them across the season. And instead of getting a 50 in that week, you can get 100. And then that's when you can really push away. And just hopefully making sure that you still are able to sort of gain some price rises from a lot of your cheaper guys and your mid-range guys over the first few weeks, so that then you have a lot more options and a lot more playable guys each and every week. So you're having the really high price players on doubles, and then your single game guys are still a decent price there. And from that point, you can still use them and get a decent score, rather than having a fairly low score from your single game guys. Obviously, it's more important to get a big score from your doubles, but if you can get sort of a 30 or 40 from your single guys as well, and they can be sort of mainstays in your side, then that's going to be gold there, rather than getting sort of a 20 out of them each and every week and they're kind of just hanging in there. If you can build up some team value, you can have some better players in your side on a week-to-week, round-to-round basis. So that's that video, guys. I hope that has helped you coming into this, and tomorrow we will end up popping out to my team reveal as well. So we have just over 2 days now, 2 days and 5 hours until game 1. I'm super excited for it, and we'll see you in that next video. It will be my team reveal, pending any changes coming into that first round. See you guys.